Hey everyone! This video is introducing you to part 2 of significant figures. We are going to learn the rule for adding and subtracting as well as the rule for multiplying and dividing. Okay, so we're just going to review really quickly the 4 rules that we talked about in class. So rule number 1, all non-zero numbers, so numbers 1 through 9 are always significant. Zeros that are sandwiched between non-zero numbers are always significant. Leading zeros, so numbers that any zeros that come before a non-zero number are never significant. And then trailing zeros, remember, are sometimes significant. So it just depends, right? Okay, so those are the 4 rules. They're in your packet, in your notes, if you need reference. Okay, so the next rule that we're going to learn is the rule for adding and subtracting. Okay, here's the rule. Your answers when adding and or subtracting should be significant to the place that matches the last significant place of the least precise number in the problem. I promise that this is the shortest I could make this rule. I know it doesn't really make a lot of sense right now, but that is the rule for adding and subtracting. So here's the easiest way to do that, okay? I kind of laid it out for you. So first, you're going to take your 2 numbers that you are adding and or subtracting, or 3 numbers or however many numbers. We're just going to be working with 2 for now, okay? And you're going to place the larger number or the longer number on top of the smaller number. And when you do that, you're going to line them up in the ones place. So no matter how many numbers are in front and no matter how many numbers are behind, remember usually when you're adding or subtracting on top of each other, you line up at the end. We're going to line up with the ones place, okay, to make this the easiest. If there is no ones place, so if we're just working with decimals, then line up where the ones place would be, okay? Because if we're working with a decimal point, there's always going to be a decimal point. So just line up where that ones place would be. And then you're going to add them together like you normally would with a calculator. And then the smaller number, so that number is typically the least precise. The number with the smallest amount of digits is typically the least precise number. So that is our key number for telling us how many places we want to round our answer to. Okay, so here's an example. I am taking 34.893 grams and I am adding that to 3.26 grams. So what I did, and the best that I could do with this computer, is I put them on top of each other, lining up with the ones place right here, okay? And then I just added them together like I normally would, and this is what I got. So over here, if you read 3.26 is the least precise out of my 2 numbers. 3.26 is way less than 34.893, and it is the least precise because it is only significant to 2 decimal places, where this number is significant to 3 decimal places. Okay, so we are looking at the number of decimal places here. 3 decimal places is more precise than 2 decimal places. So this number tells us where our answer should be rounded to, which is 2 decimal places. So this answer needs rounded to 2 decimal places. So the final answer is 38.15 grams. Okay, I rounded this 5 and I kept it at 5 because 3 is below 5, okay, rounding. All right, so that is the example for adding and subtracting. There are more examples. I think there are 2 more examples in your significant figures packet that you can take a look at if this doesn't make sense. Okay, so adding and subtracting, I think, is harder than multiplying and dividing. Okay, so now let's talk about multiplying and dividing. This should be a little easier than adding and subtracting. All right, so when multiplying and dividing, your answers should have the same number of sig figs as the number in the calculation that has the smallest number of sig figs. So here all we're doing is counting the number of sig figs. We're not worrying about what places they're in. We're not worried about where the decimal point is. We're just worried about which number has the smaller number of sig figs. Okay, here's an example. I use the same numbers as the adding and subtracting problem, but now I am multiplying them. And here's the answer that I got on my calculator. Okay, so 34.893 has 5 sig figs, and 3.26 has 3 sig figs. 3 is less than 5, so our answer should have 3 significant figures. So I need to round the number or the answer that I got on my calculator to 3 significant figures, which gives me 114 grams. Okay, and this goes for dividing as well. Okay, I think that's pretty easy compared to the adding and subtracting. So you might be wondering, why are we doing this? Why are these numbers a thing? So your result of the calculation of your either adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing cannot be more precise than the least precise measurement in the operation. All right, so if you're wondering why we are doing this, there's your answer. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to email me, and I'll see you soon.